My name is Eleanor Hayes, but my family has always preferred the sound of Ellie the disappointment. I'm 35 years old, and I spent the last 3 decades building a life they couldn't ignore. I poured $100 and 6 months of my life into planning my mother, Charlotte Hayes' 65th birthday. It wasn't just a party, it was my final plea for a simple nod of respect. I chose the Indigo House in historic Charleston, South Carolina, a place dripping with old-world Southern charm. Gas lamps, wrought iron balconies, and a view of the Battery at sunset. My company, Tidal Wave Productions, specializes in exclusive, high-stakes events, and this night was my masterpiece. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and aged bourbon. Every crystal glass, every note from the live Delta Blues band, was arranged by me. I thought, tonight they will finally see me as more than an afterthought. The moment of truth arrived during the toasts. My sister, Veronica Ronnie Vance, the family's eternal golden girl, stood up, her smile too wide, her voice saccharine. "Now for a special little gift, just for the family," she cooed. She pulled out a stack of folded cotton t-shirts, not silk or linen, but cheap cotton. Everyone got one. My father, Robert Hayes, received one that read, "Hayes Patriarch Always Right." My brother, Jackson Jax Hayes, got one for being Charlotte's favorite. Ronnie's read, "The real MVP's most valuable planet." Then came mine. Ronnie didn't toss it, she laid it deliberately on the white linen tablecloth in front of my oyster plate. I unfolded the fabric. Across the chest, in thick, crude, black block letters, were the words "THB Jested Disgrace Teotechis Family." A hushed moment of shock was shattered by a low, self-satisfied chuckle from my mother.
"Oh, Ronnie, you are wicked!"
Charlotte gasped, covering her mouth, her eyes crinkling with cruel amusement. My father, Robert, didn't laugh, but he gave a dismissive half-shrug, raising his whiskey glass. Jax let out a sharp, loud snicker into his drink. Even my usually quiet aunt, Martha Hayes, clapped once, like it was a brilliant comedy bit. Ronnie leaned in, her eyes glinting. "Lighten up, Ellie. It's just a joke." I didn't scream. I didn't weep. The years of slighted respect, of being financially exploited, of proving my worth only to be called a disgrace in front of 100 guests, it all funneled into a single, freezing point of clarity. I set the shirt down, my hands utterly steady. This is the point where I have to pause and ask you, the audience, a questions. Have you ever had a moment where you realized your relationship with someone was built on a lie? If you have, please take a second right now to like this video, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe to the channel. Hitting that notification bell ensures you don't miss any of these stories about standing up for yourself. Sharing your story here helps others find the courage to walk away. I reached into my designer clutch. I wasn't carrying a phone or lipstick. I was carrying a portfolio made of rich, supple Italian leather. I pulled out a thick stack of documents, crisp, official, sealed: a deed, a trust, and a corporate contract. The family stopped laughing. Every eye in that grand dining room was locked on me. I held the papers up, high enough for the gold seal of my corporate attorney's firm to catch the candlelight. Then, slowly and deliberately, I began to tear them in half. Rip. The sound was sharp, louder than the string quartet. "Eleanor, what in God's name are you doing?" my mother whispered, her voice finally losing its soft, amused edge. Rip. I tore the stack again, sending a flurry of white confetti onto the heirloom silver. Ronnie's face had gone from smug to pale. Jax lurched forward in his seat. Rip. I didn't answer them. I let the fragments fall. They knew those papers were important, they just didn't know how important. I dropped the remaining shreds on the table, met their horrified eyes one last time, turned, and walked out. The heavy, cypress doors of the Indigo House closed behind me with a solid, echoing thud. I stepped onto the Charleston cobblestones and breathed the salty air. The first genuinely free breath I'd taken in years. Within the hour, the panic started. Calls, texts, desperate voicemails. They had gathered the confetti, read the pieces, and finally realized what their joke had cost them. The price of a second place, growing up in our coastal North Carolina home. A quaint house that always needed work, but always felt full of my parents' aspirations. I was the satellite, orbiting the two bright stars they adored. My sister, Ronnie, 5 years older, was the family's trophy wife in training. She was the Miss Teen Coastal Carolina runner-up, the university cheerleader, the girl who married a mid-level banker, Stuart Vance, at 23. Ronnie is making a legacy. My mother, Charlotte, would declare, smoothing the silk on her daughter's latest pageant sash. My brother, Jax, 2 years older, was the lovable rogue. He totaled 2 cars, was caught cheating on his college entrance exam, and flunked out twice. My father, Robert, would just clap him on the shoulder, a slow, indulgent smile spreading across his face. Boys are meant to break things, Ellie. That's how they learn. And me? I was the quiet achiever. At 16, I won the state debate championship. I walked into the kitchen, trophy in hand, only to find my mother busy steaming Ronnie's bridesmaid dress. She glanced at the hardware. That's nice, Ellie. But try to be less intense in college. Boys don't like intense girls. My father's response to my full scholarship to Duke. Smart girls like you should focus on law, dear. Event planning, that's for fun. Their dismissal was a physical ache. I learned to convert that pain into fuel. I stopped seeking their approval and started seeking their financial independence. College was my launchpad. I moved to Durham, worked 3 jobs, and majored in entrepreneurial studies. I started small, planning campus parties and faculty retreats. But my brain was wired for scale and detail. By the time I was 30, my company, Tidal Wave Productions, was handling 7-figure contracts, luxury yacht launches, private island retreats for tech CEOs, and high-security political fundraisers. The company's valuation was conservatively estimated at $30 million. I didn't brag. I didn't need to, but I quietly became their bank. When Charlotte needed a new knee and the insurance deductible was crippling, I wired the $50,000 instantly. When Ronnie's husband, Stuart, blew a massive amount of cash on a failed crypto mining scheme, the one Jax was supposed to be running, and they needed to cover a $75,000 secret debt to avoid an audit, I paid it. They never asked why I paid it, only if I would. And their home, that old North Carolina house, a symbol of their stable, loving, judgmental life, was hanging by a thread. They were 6 months behind on a balloon payment. I stepped in and covered $300,000 of the outstanding mortgage debt to keep them from foreclosure. They took every penny, every gift, every emergency loan, not a single thank you. Not one question about my life or my stress. Ellie just got lucky with the yacht crowd, Jax once scoffed to a cousin. Loud enough for me to hear. She's trying too hard to look important. I kept giving, telling myself that success was measured not in their thanks, but in my ability to rescue them. It was a fool's hope, an anchor I was dragging through life. The 65th birthday party was my last offering. I wasn't just arranging a venue, I was arranging my place in their family. The cost exceeded $100,000, but the real gift, the one that would guarantee their future security, was in the briefcase. The deed of trust, the receipt showing I had fully paid off the remaining $300,000 on their North Carolina home. The house was theirs, free and clear, for life. The corporate transfer, a certified document transferring 15% of my non-voting company shares to a trust in my parents' names, valued at $4.5 million. A quarterly income stream to secure their retirement. The irrevocable trust, 2 separate accounts, each containing a $100,000 for Ronnie and Stuart's 2 children, ensuring their college education. I had planned to present this gift during the toasts. A triumphant, quiet gesture. A final demonstration that the disappointment was the only thing holding up the legacy. But they gave me the shirt instead. And I tore up everything. The aftermath, silence and whispers. The drive back to my hotel in Charleston was a blur, but my mind was crystal clear. The weight I'd carried for decades, the weight of seeking approval, was finally gone. My phone was a bonfire of notifications. Charlotte's mom to Eleanor. Call us back and do. Those papers, they must be a misunderstanding. No mention of the T-shirt. Robert, Dad, you crossed a line, young lady. This is not over. We are your parents. Fix this. Ronnie's sister, you ruined Mom's night. I knew you were always jealous. You're pathetic. This was a voicemail, laced with genuine venom. I powered the phone off. Their panic wasn't about my feelings, it was about their wallets. A guest had indeed started piecing the fragments together. The letterhead, the legal terms, the massive financial figures. It didn't take them long to figure out they had shredded 4.7 million and a debt-free life. Ronnie struck first on social media, posting a grainy photo of the Disgrace t-shirt, spinning the narrative, "My jealous sister ruined mom's milestone birthday with a tantrum. She tore up papers just to make a scene." The early comments agreed with her, calling me ungrateful. But Ronnie made a crucial mistake. She didn't realize the extent of my professional profile. A few days later, a national business magazine, Executive South, published the feature story they'd been working on for months. Eleanor Hayes, the tidal wave CEO, who built a 30 years a million empire on resilience. The article wasn't about my family drama, but it detailed my quiet philanthropy, the $50,000 surgery payment, the covering of large family debts, the $30 million valuation of tidal wave productions. It painted a picture of a successful woman constantly giving to her family, who remained curiously absent from her major milestones. The response was immediate and overwhelming. My phone, which I had powered back on, was now vibrating not with family demands, but with thousands of messages from strangers. "You are an inspiration. I am 70, and I'm finally cutting off my own toxic relatives because of you. Your worth is not their opinion. Stand tall." Ronnie's social media narrative collapsed. Her local followers who read Executive South flooded her posts. "You call her a disgrace while she's paying your mortgage. You're the real embarrassment." She lost her part-time brand ambassador contract with a local jewelry boutique, a substantial annual income, setting public value misalignment. Her posts vanished, replaced by silence. Jax's small business network, which he had been leveraging using my name, abandoned him. One venture capitalist declined a loan for his latest hair-brained scheme, stating they couldn't risk association with the kind of dramatic family friction the Hayes name has recently generated. But my parents, Charlotte and Robert, were the ones facing the hardest truth. Without my quarterly cash injections, the financial dam broke. The North Carolina house, which they were now forced to admit was not debt-free, was put on the market. They had to downsize to a cramped condo, selling off furniture and heirlooms to cover the rising costs of their pride. They had lost the house, the $4.5 million trust fund, and most importantly, the person who had been quietly keeping their world from falling apart. Ronnie tried one last time, an angry text. "You could have just written us new papers. Ellie, you didn't have to go public and ruin us." I simply replied, "You didn't have to print the shirt." The most profound realization wasn't the cost to them, but the cost to me. I had spent my life performing for an audience that refused to clap. My success had been a hollow victory, because I was always measuring it against their impossible standard. But standing alone on that Charleston street, tearing up a fortune, I chose myself. I chose self-respect over family obligation. The world's support was a welcome surprise, but my own peace was the real prize. I went on to launch a mentorship program for women, funded entirely by Tidal Wave Productions, and focused on helping others build boundaries. I bought a quiet home on the coast, where the only sound is the tide. A constant, rhythmic reminder that some things are meant to be let go. I will continue the story when you give the command, continue. The final lesson and call to action. To be delivered at the very end of the final script. The final lesson I learned is simple, especially for those of you who have given so much. Your greatest investment should be in your own peace. No one's validation, not a parent's nod, not a sibling's praise, defines your worth. You define it. Walk away from the table when they hand you the Disgrace t-shirt. You are enough. You always were. If this story resonated with you, and if you've ever had to choose yourself over a toxic relationship, please like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to our channel to see more powerful, true stories of resilience. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next upload. And please, I invite you to share your own family story, your quiet victories and hard-won lessons, in the comments section below.